line's opening. Finally. Yeah,
Where are we?
we're at the Met
For what?
for the latest Costume Institute exhibit. I think it's called About Time. So now we're moving. Hi, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to do a little outro, if you will, to my vlog footage. I just got back from the Met Museum and it is the first Saturday since the exhibit opened on, I believe, Thursday. So today is actually Halloween. And we hadn't eaten anything all day, so we quickly ate lunch first, and I reapplied some lips and I'm sitting down because I wanted to share my thoughts, some of my experience before any of those thoughts left my brain. So the Met Museum operates on like timed tickets basically. You can purchase your tickets online and reserve a time slot. You will get an electronic ticket. For those of you who live in New York, you would be familiar with like the kind of pay as much as you want kind of ticket. You can't purchase those online. You can only purchase like the full price tickets online. Instead, for those, I think you can reserve a time slot to go to the Met, and then you'd have to go to like the desk, to like the member services kind of desk, to then be able to get that other ticket. So for me, for just pure ease of getting in and out of the museum, I just chose to get the like full price ticket, and I was totally happy to do that. The museum like just opened up again pretty much, so I was fine to support that way. But at the time that you reserve your ticket, you also need to do the add-on for the About Time exhibit. There's also what was it called? The the way of the Met, the making of the Met. I think that's the other exhibit that's happening at the same time. That also is like an added on extra ticket. There's no additional fee for it, but you do have to select a time slot for that ticket. If you're interested in checking out the exhibit, I highly, 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 highly recommend you purchase your tickets online to reserve your time, because even when you reserve a time slot, there is still some waiting for the About Time exhibit. So in our case, we got tickets for 10 a.m. admission to the Met Museum, and then the 10:15 and 10:30 time slots for the About Time exhibit were like limited quantities when I was checking. So I decided to go for the 10:45 time slot. We got to the museum 5 minutes early. If you purchased a ticket, then you can enter on 81st Street and 5th Ave. If you reserved a time slot and you need to buy a ticket, then your entrance is closer to 82nd Street, if not 83rd Street and 5th Ave. If you're facing the Met, it kind of splits in two ways. And one line would be for basically reservations and purchasing a ticket, and then the other line would be for prepaid tickets and member tickets. It's a lot easier, honestly, if you purchase your ticket ahead of time. So we went to the 81st and 5th Ave entrance. There was a line because the Met opens at 10 a.m. and our admissions was at 10 a.m. So understandably, there were people lined up to be able to get inside. Then once you get inside, you are kind of propped in the middle of the Greek and Roman sculpture exhibit, and you sort of have to find your way to the About Time exhibit. So I recommend, unless you absolutely know your way around the Met, I think if you had a 10 o'clock admissions and 10:15 About Time exhibit ticket, like, I would have been stressing to try and find the exhibit as soon as I got in. So I think it's better to give yourself a little bit of a gap, maybe anywhere from like a half hour to 45 minutes, I think is perfect. And on your way in, they take your temperature. All the coat checks are temporarily closed right now, so you basically just have to follow the signs to get your way in and out of any kind of exhibit. So we got ourselves on the second floor because the exhibit's on the second floor, and we were browsing a little bit, and then around 10:35 we were like, okay, we're a little early, but let's head over to the line for the exhibit. I was pretty sure there was a line. So I went in line, and you still have to wait. So it's not like it's 10, you have a 10:45 ticket, like you can head on straight in. There is a line, and so by the we were in line, I said like 10:35. We didn't get into the exhibit until 11. So my other tip, if you want to go, I would definitely go early. I would go when the museum opens, and I would get the admissions time within the first like hour, if not hour and a half, because you will be waiting. You still will be waiting to be able to get inside the exhibit. They do have to monitor how many people are going into the exhibit, and once they reach capacity, they basically do a one in, one out. So when one party leaves, or when a couple people leave, they let a couple people in, regardless of what time your ticket was for. So you can imagine how the wait time then will compound as the day goes on. So let's say you had a 2 o'clock ticket and you showed up, like they might still be processing some of the 12:30, like 1 o'clock tickets, and for those people to go through. The other thing to note about the exhibit is that it is what they call like a circular exhibit, and you kind of go in a relatively like single file along, and it is in one direction. You cannot retract your steps. You technically cannot even like move yourself out of place in line. So if there's someone in front of you who's like going too slow, the whole kind of momentum is going at the rate of the slowest person, if that makes sense. And we weren't particularly bothered. The people in front of us were pretty thorough. They liked to look at everything, and they liked to take photos and things like that, which we did too. At some points they were sort of like lingering a little bit longer than like we would have, but I didn't mind. And for me, I don't know, I felt more comfortable if there was someone else who, you know, was taking their time. Like, I feel more comfortable taking my time, you know. I was feeling less pressure to have to like boom, 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 go through. But there were a few people behind us. I could hear that like they felt like they were stuck. Like they were like, oh, now we're just stuck here. Like we're just going to be stuck here. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, yeah, you came to see an exhibit. Like just flow with it. Like what's the big deal? Anyway, I guess there were some people who were like in a big rush. So they kind of like eyed for the opportunity to get out of line and like kind of cut through and get out faster. But there are people inside the exhibit who will tell you, you cannot backtrack, you cannot go back, like you have to stay in your place in line. Like that's how the exhibit is going, and I think part of that's also for them to manage the crowd because of COVID time. All of that's really for FYI, so you're aware and you can kind of plan accordingly. You know, if there are afternoon times available, like I wouldn't necessarily despair. If that's the only time you can make it, I still think it's totally worth it. I would just expect a little bit more kind of wait for you to be able to then get into the exhibit. So we got to the museum at 10. We got into the About Time exhibit at 11. They said it takes about an hour to get through the exhibit, which was pretty accurate. We got out at 12. And then we continued to peruse through the museum. I wanted to see more of the like European artwork that's on that second floor. And then my boyfriend wanted to go to the Egypt exhibit and stop by the temple. So we did all of that. I think by the time we left, we left at 1 and we spent a solid like 3 hours of constant something was happening, something to look at, and it was really great. The whole time there's sanitizer everywhere, and their stairs are designated as up only, down only. Some of them are two-way, so you do have to be mindful of those signs. There are some areas of exhibits that are closed. I think if they're like if it's in like a very, very small space, I think they've temporarily closed those. They just didn't want people going in and out. But other than that, at 10 a.m. it's actually really nice. There aren't a lot of people anywhere, and so it's really like quiet. I liked the timed admissions. I feel like it manages the people a lot better, and everybody was wearing their masks. There really wasn't any issue with that either. So I felt like the people were pretty spaced out. It wasn't too crowded. It wasn't too crazy. And it was just really nice and inspiring to be in that kind of space. For the exhibit itself, I really enjoyed the exhibit. I know it's basically about like the timeline of fashion, the timeliness of it, and the timelessness of it as well. I really liked the linear format of that whole exhibit. I liked how it's intended to be in that kind of single file flow, but I kind of wish they do more exhibits that way. It allows you the time to really be able to take in each piece and to be able to spend the time to do so. It almost forces you to do that, and I really like that about it, rather than it just being where you just walk in, you just see everything, and then you kind of leave. I noticed though, when you're in that space and you're just following the flow, you kind of get lost in it, and I didn't realize how far along we've come, how much time we were spending. You kind of lose sense of time while you're in it, and while you're really like kind of wrapped around everything that's there. And I thought it was a really great like immersive experience. There is some music playing that's specific to like the black room. I think they call it like the black room and the mirror room. So there's some music that's playing throughout. There's some narration that's happening in the hallway that connects the two of them, which I never fully follow the whole story. But anyway, everything is like really soothing, and it's just really nice. I was really fascinated with how I lost the concept of time as I was actually spending time in an exhibit. And it was great to see the timeline, and you also see where the inspirations keep coming from, and how certain styles will really cycle in and out. So that was all just really fascinating to see. I really, really enjoyed the exhibit. All right, but that's pretty much everything. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's not easy easy for everyone to be able to go to museums right now. I'm sure there are places where the museums aren't quite fully functioning. So that's why I wanted to do my best to be able to share some snippets of the Met Museum here in New York, and just to be able to share at least a little bit of, you know, this like otherworldly imagery. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below or head on over to Instagram. I'd be happy to help however I can. If you like this video and you'd like to see more vlogs around New York City, then please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of your feedback and support. If you like this kind of content and you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I post new fashion related videos every Sunday and Wednesday. So until next time, bye!